The rain hadn't stopped for 2 days. It fell in soft, endless sheets over the cobbled streets of Munich, turning the world into a watercolor of gray and gold lights. Inside a small cafe tucked in a quiet corner, a young woman with emerald eyes sat by the window, watching the world go by, her fingers trembling around a porcelain cup. Her name was Anneliese von Hohenberg, the only daughter of one of Germany's wealthiest families. But today, wealth meant nothing. Today, she felt like a stranger in her own skin. That's when she heard a soft voice, deep, tired, and unfamiliar. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" She turned, startled. A man stood there with a small child clinging to his coat. His hair was damp from the rain, and his eyes carried that kind of quiet strength that only comes from loss. He spoke in English, clearly not a local. His clothes were plain, his shoes worn, and yet, there was something dignified about him. "No, please," Anneliese said gently. "You can sit." He smiled faintly, thanked her, and sat down with his little girl, a delicate, brown-haired child who couldn't have been more than 6. The girl looked up at Anneliese with wide, curious eyes, then whispered something to her father. He chuckled softly, whispering back, "Not now, sweetheart." For a few moments, silence stretched between them, broken only by the clinking of cups and the soft hum of rain. But then, curiosity got the better of her. "You're not from here, are you?" she asked. He looked up. "No," he said simply. "We just moved from Manchester. My wife," he paused, his jaw tightening. "She passed away last year." Anneliese felt her heart tighten. "I'm sorry." He nodded quietly, as if he'd heard that line too many times to feel its comfort anymore. "It's been hard. But my daughter, Lily, she deserves a fresh start." Lily peeked at Anneliese shyly and gave a little wave. Anneliese smiled, waving back. Something warm stirred in her chest, a feeling she hadn't known she'd been missing. They talked for a while, about nothing and everything. About Germany's cold winters, about how hard it was to raise a child alone, about how grief had its own language. He told her his name was Daniel Carter. A single dad who worked odd jobs, barely scraping by but refusing to give up. Hours passed without either of them realizing. When Anneliese finally rose to leave, Daniel stood too, helping her with her coat. It was such a simple gesture, yet it made her heart stumble. "Maybe I'll see you again," she asked before she could stop herself. He smiled, just a little. "Maybe you will." And just like that, he was gone, disappearing into the rain with his daughter. But something in her chest whispered she hadn't seen the last of him. A week later, fate proved her right. Anneliese was at a local charity event, an outreach her family sponsored for underprivileged children. Cameras flashed, voices murmured, and her father's business partners talked about profits disguised as kindness. She was used to the facade, used to pretending that the gold around her wrists didn't feel like chains. Then she saw him again. Daniel. He was standing near the back, carrying a box of donated supplies. His sleeves were rolled up, revealing arms strong from work, not from privilege. And when their eyes met, everything around her went silent. "Daniel," she breathed. "Miss von Hohenberg," he replied, his tone polite, cautious. "You remembered me." "I don't forget kindness," he said simply. They talked again, more awkward this time, surrounded by her father's world. But when her father approached, everything changed. Her von Hohenberg was a man of power, control, and calculation. His eyes swept over Daniel like he was a blemish on a perfect suit. "And who is this?" her father asked coldly. "Just someone helping," Daniel replied evenly. Her father's lip curled. "The help, then. We appreciate your contribution. That will be all." Anneliese's cheeks burned. "Father." "Anneliese," he interrupted sharply. "A word." She hesitated, her throat tight. Daniel said nothing, only offered a quiet nod, taking Lily's hand and walking away. But before he turned completely, he looked at her once more, his eyes saying what his words couldn't. "Don't apologize. Just live your truth." That night, Anneliese couldn't sleep. For the first time, she realized how small her golden cage really was. The next morning, she left her mansion, no chauffeur, no guards, and walked through the city until she found the same cafe. Daniel was there again, working behind the counter this time. "You work here?" she asked, surprised. "Part-time," he said with a faint grin. They needed help. I needed rent. And then, like before, they talked. About simple things: books, childhood memories, music. Slowly, carefully, she peeled away her world, showing him the woman behind the title. And he, in turn, showed her what real strength looked like: a man who cooked dinner for his daughter every night, who sang lullabies in broken German, who smiled even when his eyes were tired. Weeks turned into months. Friendship into something deeper. But love, as they both learned, was never simple. One evening, Daniel was picking Lily up from school when Annalise arrived, flushed and breathless. "Daniel, I need to tell you something," she said. "What is it?" "My father found out about us. He's furious. He says I'm ruining the family's name." Daniel's expression darkened, but his voice stayed calm. "And what do you think?" "I think," her voice broke. "I think I don't care about the name anymore. I care about you. About Lily. About a life that actually feels real." But before he could reply, her phone rang. Her father's voice thundered through the speaker, sharp and cutting. He spoke in German, cruel words about class, about disgrace, about shame. Daniel listened quietly, his jaw tight. When she finally hung up, trembling, she whispered, "I'm so sorry, he didn't mean." "I understand every word you said," Daniel interrupted, in perfect German. Annalise froze. You speak German," she stammered. He nodded slowly. "My mother was German. I didn't tell you because sometimes people treat you differently when they know you understand. I wanted to see who you really were before you saw all of me." Tears welled in her eyes. "Daniel," he stepped closer, his voice gentle. "You don't have to choose between worlds, Annalise. You just have to choose what kind of person you want to be." That night, under the quiet glow of the streetlights, she made her choice. She walked away from her father's empire, from the empty halls and marble lies, and toward something uncertain, but true. Months later, a new cafe opened in the same corner of Munich. It was called Licht und Liebe, Light and Love. Behind the counter, Daniel brewed coffee while Annalise served pastries, laughing softly as Lily drew hearts on the chalkboard menu. Their lives weren't perfect. They were real. And sometimes, that's all the miracle anyone needs, because in a world full of words spoken and misunderstood, it only takes one person to truly listen. And when love speaks in every language, even silence becomes enough.